Something.
The other damning thing was Michael Cohen showed a check written by I believe it was
he had
signed.
Two checks. One was signed by Trump. The other one was signed by Small Don or
Donald Trump Jr. So
and another guy that worked inside the organization.
So Donald Trump Jr. signing a check to Stormy Daniels, I believe, while Trump was president.
Yeah.
That's problematic for Donald Trump Jr. because
it's problematic that Donald Trump signed it as well, and this is after he said he's giving the organization over to his kids.
Right. And at the time Donald Trump signed it, I believe he was president. Yeah. But also I believe he signed it before that time on the airplane when he was questioned, do you know anything about these hush money payments? And he said, no, I don't. You'd have to ask Michael Cohen. So everything that
we've known that was a lie for some months now.
Right, but my point is everything, as of now, Mueller might have something else. Everything that is kind of criminally liable about Trump has nothing to do with Russia. It has to do with lying about lying about how long he was negotiating for the Trump Tower in Moscow, lying about the hush money payments to Stormy Daniels, which none of his supporters care about either of those. But there's nothing about, there's nothing in here that shows that he was working with the Russian government to hack the DNC, to hack Podesta. None of that is shown. One thing that is in here that Michael Cohen is saying that could be a criminal charge against President Trump is Cohen is saying, here we go. Cohen is saying that changes were made to his testimony about the Trump Tower Moscow deal by Trump's lawyer, Jay Sekulow, and maybe others on Trump's legal team before Cohen testified to Congress, before he lied to Congress. Yeah. So that would indicate that Trump and his legal team were obstructing justice.
It wouldn't indicate Trump and his legal team was obstructing justice. His legal team can operate without Trump. You know what I'm saying? In the best interest of Trump. Cohen in himself said that he would operate without getting direct consent from Trump, but based on their interaction in the past, he would be like, okay, Trump would want me to do this and would do it on behalf of Trump without telling Trump, and it will let Trump know later. So,
well, yes and no, because lawyers are supposed to clear things by their client before they take action on behalf of the client.
That may be true, but obviously Cohen is saying, as his lawyer, he did not do that. Cohen said, no, I would do things based on what I knew that Trump wanted based on history. So based on that, I would do things without consulting with him. So in that regard, you can easily see his lawyers doing something without him knowing.
But what I'm saying,
in order to protect him.
But what I'm saying is all of what we're saying right now is under the caveat Mueller might have something else that substantiates that Trump did know and that Trump was directing it. You see what I'm saying? Like, Mueller might have information that shows, no, Trump was the one pulling the strings, because Michael Cohen was still with Trump. He was still in Trump's camp at that time. He might have phone calls. He might have, who knows?
Based on what Cohen is saying right now, Trump is not as dumb as we think he is. Like, he's like, no, he would not tell us directly. He would say around about, he would do things that will then infer based on, you would have to have history with him to know what he meant by those things.
Right.
So that's why I was like, no, you won't find something recorded outside of what he recorded and what he has of Trump, because he wouldn't do text messages. And remember what I had said, that's crazy that a man that tweets so much doesn't text message.
Right.
And obviously, you think about if his school of thought, which people always go to the fact that he sounds like a mobster, let's just entertain that idea, that school of thought. They never used phones. They never used anything that would show kind of communication, and they were always, so if that was his kind of the tunnel that he went in, building his persona, building his business, then obviously he's, in that regard, there are certain things you're not going to be able to attach him to, because he's always like,
yes and no, though, because it's already been shown that Michael Cohen recorded Trump in many cases.
Well, that goes the same reason that the majority of mobsters are put down is always with someone that's really close to them.
You seem to know a lot about the mob.
I do know a lot about the mob. It's always with someone that's close to them. So it makes sense that Cohen would then be able to get that access and record that. But Cohen said outside of his own recordings that they already have, there's nothing else. And I would go to say that there's nothing else except the only argument you really have that you can say, okay, could there be other evidence, is the fact that he signed a check. But based on what Trump said, he didn't think it was a big deal that he still operated in his business capacity. That was more of a perception thing than an actual legal thing.
No, because there are laws against a sitting president of the United States also enriching himself or having business interests. Obama had to divest himself from certain things, and other presidents had to divest themselves from certain things.
It's a perception thing. I don't think it's a business thing, because he kept saying he can do it. It's a perception. It's all about perception, because it's the perception that you're keeping this, because then the things that you're doing as president is to alleviate that perception, you then take yourself out of it. But it's not legal at all.
However, what we're talking about two different things. So even if Trump didn't break any laws in real time doing what he was doing, if he lied about the things he was doing to Robert Mueller, you're in deep shit.
Exactly.
Right.
But then how do we get to those lies?
We'll see what Mueller's report has to say. But I've been saying forever and ever and ever, even when I was at the Young Turks.
He's given a statement to
a written statement.
Written statement.
I've always said I don't see a Russian collusion boogeyman. What I see is, he had shady business deals that he was probably lying about. Because as Michael Cohen said about 10 times, he never in a million years thought he was going to win the presidency. Yeah. So he was just basically using this as a big marketing PR thing. And so he was trying to get that Moscow tower. He didn't want to lose that opportunity, so he lied about how long into the process of the campaign those negotiations went. I think he told Cohen to lie to Congress, saying it was over in January 2016. It actually was, they were talking as recently as summer 2016. But to me, the most damning, if you want to say, if it comes out that Mueller has evidence to support it, if Trump was at all involved, even if not directly, but was in communication with his lawyers about what they were doing, what they were directing Michael Cohen to say to Congress, that's obstruction of justice. Because you are...
And that's what we don't see.
And he was doing it as president, not during the campaign, because Michael Cohen testified after. But
so that's what we don't see.
Right. But what I would like to express is two things. Number one, there's two separate things. So on one hand, Donald Trump could be a sleazy businessman. Donald Trump could have had, well, probably did have numerous affairs, and I'm sure his wife knows about it, and that's baked.
And I'm sure she don't care.
I mean, she sleeps in a separate room from all accounts.
And also, big up to him saying, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, he's never been that type of person. It's a completely different type of person that hits their wife versus lies.
Right.
So I'm glad he didn't convolute the two. I think it gives more credibility to his intentions. He's not just trying to paint this boogeyman because there were allegations of him hitting his wife. He said, no, never seen anything like that. I thought that was great, just on the credibility part, you know. Right. I don't think you can really argue his whole intention is to just do in with and by any means lie to get his point across.
And I think that, to be honest with you, to me,
I need to brush my teeth.
To me, what this hearing is showing is a lot of things we already knew. Donald Trump probably had shady financial dealings when it comes to Russia. Donald Trump wanted to hush up porn star payments, probably not so much for the campaign, but because of his wife.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically
he was like, he done it too many times. He told her he wasn't going to do it no more. Right. He didn't want to have this drama.
Also, in a lot of cases, and we knew this with Jackie O, it's not so much they understand that their husband is not faithful, but they don't want to be embarrassed.
Exactly. They don't want it in the face. It's a different thing to know it, and then it's a different thing for everybody else to know.
But to me, the most important thing...
And a different thing to know everybody else knows.
But to me, the most important thing that comes out of this, unless I'm missing something, is again, all of the time that has been wasted among the corporate media foaming at the mouth about an imaginary boogeyman of Russian collusion when they could have just waited for Mueller's report. Because you're running out of people that could prove Russian collusion. Manafort's not proving Russian collusion. All he has proven is stuff separate from the Trump campaign. He was a tax evader, money laundering, even before he joined the Trump campaign. Yeah. Who else? Michael Flynn doesn't prove Russian collusion. He's going to jail for something that happened after Trump was elected. Who else is in the orbit that's going down? George Papadopoulos doesn't really prove Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. So really, unless I'm missing something, your last hope was Michael Cohen, and he's in front of Congress with really a lot of jeopardy if he lies again, saying, I don't really have any evidence. All he said is there were some odd things. He did say, I found it odd that Trump was talking so lovingly about Putin during the campaign, but is it really odd if he was still actively trying to get a Moscow Trump Tower, which Putin could make happen with the snap of his fingers? So I think what this hearing is showing is Rachel Maddow, Morning Joe, the Washington Post, the New York Times, again, unless Robert Mueller proves me wrong, and all along, dating back to 2.5 years ago, even when I was on the campaign trail and all this stuff was starting, I said, I'm not opposed to an investigation. Listen, I think it's a little much to have $30 to $40 million spent, but anyway, I'm not opposed to an investigation, but let's cover like real issues and wait. That doesn't mean investigative reporters can't try to find out what Mueller is investigating.
Investigating, guess what? Investigating is not a night.
Right. So doesn't mean investigative reporters, which that doesn't really exist anymore. Most reporters on CNN, the New York Times, are just stenographers for the deep state, CIA, FBI, and whatever the hell the government tells them, uncritically just passing it along to you, the news consumer. However, did we really need, for 2.5 years, segment after segment after segment of just gross speculation that the Russian collusion and this and that, when there was never any hard evidence that the Trump campaign or Trump actively was working with even liaisons to the Russian government, cutouts to the Russian government? There was never any firm evidence of that, and we've wasted time. No coverage of the ongoing water crisis in Flint, about to turn 5 years old. No coverage of black men being executed to this day all over the country by a militarized police occupying force. No coverage of the environmental genocide. So to button this up, to me, the key things, number one, Don Jr. signing that check. Number two, Donald Trump signing that check. Donald Trump, I don't know everything he told Robert Mueller in writing, but he certainly did tell the news media he didn't know about those hush money payments.